Good afternoon, billionaires. Hello, hello. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Billionaires Mindset. Tonight we got a nice topic for you. We're going to be talking about the election results and how it affects a couple of communities. Tonight we're talking about the Latino community and we're talking about the evangelical community. So I want to talk. I have a special guest that's going to be coming on. His name is Wilfredo C. Um, I guess when he comes on, he's going to pronounce it a little bit better for me. But Wilfredo and I are going to be having a discussion based on election results. And the reason why I wanted to have this conversation is because I've been speaking with my wife, and she's a therapist, and she has clients who are a little bit anxious. And I've been talking to some friends, and the election results are freaking people out. It's making people feel some kind of way, especially Harris supporters. Trump supporters obviously are very happy for the results, but there is some type of uneasiness. So I wanted to talk about that. I want to we may do this in like a series if I get, if we go over, I may have to invite my guy Wilfredo to come back on so that we can continue the conversation, because it's an important conversation for us to have. The country has to heal. When you have such a close relation, when you have such a close election, and Harris and Trump, even though Harris did not have the same amount of time campaigning, Trump has been campaigning for a very long time. People on both sides are gonna, there's a lot of tension in our country. There's a lot of things going on in our country. So I want to talk about me being a man of faith. Um, my name is on the screen. I'm sorry. I go by the name of Harry B. Harry Billion. This is the Billionaires Mindset. But I'm a man of faith, and there is the evangelical vote or the Christian vote. So we want to dig a little bit deeper into that Christian vote, the evangelical vote. How and why did Trump win those votes? And how and why did Trump win the Latino vote as well? Or whatever percentage he got. How did he get those percentages? We want to dig into that. So let me go ahead and bring on my special guest. His name is Wilfredo C. And so that we can have this and get the conversation going. Wilfredo, how you doing today? Thank you for coming on and joining the Billionaires Mindset. How are you this evening? Or this evening. On
Good,
your
good.
on
Thank
your
you
end,
very
it'll
much.
be afternoon, I guess, where you are.
Yeah, it's afternoon, so it's about 4 o'clock somewhere in there.
Okay. So this was something that we talked about, and you were interested in the topic because it's something that's very dear to you. So before we get into that, introduce yourself to our audience, to the billionaire community. Who are you? What do you do? And how did you become so compassionate or so passionate about this topic?
My name is Wilfredo C. I'm a follower of Christ, and what really created a passion for me was that they, the voters for Trump and Christianity, have created a false narrative into Christianity, and wanted to kind of clarify that because people need to know what true Christianity is, and I wanted them to understand that voting for Trump, um, based off of Christianity, um, there's something wrong with that.
All right. So I don't know if you are an expert, but tell the people what you do and who you are. Basically, give us an intro of who you are.
Yeah, so I'm a well, I'm just a regular Joe. I go to church, Bible study. I'm also a mechanic in life. I have a job. I wake up every morning, pay the bills, do
Mhm.
things for my family, and spread the gospel.
Amen to that. All right, so let's dig it. Let's jump into it. Generally speaking, a lot of people, Trump he's been campaigning for, well, he was president for 4 years, and then when he's been doing this for 10 years now, and Harris took over for Trump. I guess kind of like mid-election, so she had like 90 days or plus 100 plus days. How do you feel? how do you feel generally about the election? It just generally.
Well, generally over the election, I feel that there could have been better candidates for the presidential election, but we had only those two viable choices. I think we should have been able to come up with better elects through other means, but unfortunately, that wasn't the case. I think if we would have had better elects, I think the outcome would have been different.
All right, so let's let the audience know that you are in the process of becoming a citizen. You're not a citizen and you cannot vote yet, but this is something that you're very passionate about. But tell the people your process of where you are currently, just so they know who we're talking to.
So currently, I'm in the process of becoming a citizen or nationalized. Um, I, if I could have voted, I would have voted. Um, and and I understand that one person sometimes can't make a difference, but my vote, I believe, would have made a difference in a form because of the fact that I have a lot to say in regards to all this. Um, once I become nationalized, I believe I'll and my vote counts. I'll be able to make a difference.
Okay, so now Trump won a pretty hefty amount of the Latino vote, Latino men and Latino women, and also the evangelicals. Now, you're saying you're very passionate. You're a Christian man, and when we were talking generally, you were kind of like you were a little bit bothered by how the evangelicals in this country are so heavily either Republican or they went for Trump. Tell me a little bit about that and why do you have that feeling?
Well, because in today's society, the American Christianity has failed God, and within that American Christianity, we've had deep rooted a wrong view of how Christianity is, and by using Christianity as a form of voting for Trump, you have now done the opposite of what Christians are supposed to do. You've uplifted a man over Jesus when you should have used man to as a pedestal to lift Jesus. Instead, you have Jesus uplifting man. And in this case, how Christianity is, and so you understand, um, American Western Christianity. Um, to understand this, you need to like create a foundation.
Okay.
Um, the current belief system of how to represent God is flawed. People who voted for Donald Trump and the use of Christianity as a basis or reason why they voted for him misunderstand the whole concept of Christianity. Christianity is about God, Jesus, the Holy Spirit. And within that structure of God, it is rooted in love. So if you were to ask someone, what is the structure of Christianity? It's love. So if you were to dive into the Bible like true Christians are supposed to, like people that are devoted to God, have to open the Bible. They have to be able to understand what the Bible says. Those that are not in the Bible are not real Christians because of the fact that they have influencers outside of like Donald Trump or someone else that's trying to influence what um, Christians are supposed to be like. An example would be like what how God shows us love is in John 3:16. It talks about for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son, that whoever so believes in him will have everlasting life. But within that, you have to understand that to declare with your mouth in Romans 10:9, it says, if you declare with your mouth Jesus is Lord and believe in your heart. Now understand there's two things. It's not just one. You can't just declare with your mouth. You have to declare with your heart as well. It says, and believe in your heart that God raised him from the dead, you will be saved. Now that's love. He gave his son to die for us. Now also in John 14:15, it says, if you love me, you will keep my commandments. But in further, it says in John 14:35 to 34 and 35, it says, a new command I give you, love one another as I have loved you. So you must love one another. By this, everyone will know that you are one of my disciples if you love one another. Now, tell me, what in everything that I just said, does it sound like Trump?
So okay, so let me add a little bit of so I think the voters, right? Whether they are taking the Bible literally when they're voting, I think they're voting on issues, not necessarily whether Trump is displaying the letter of the Bible. So Trump voters or evangelicals, I believe the way that they vote is they're voting based on issues. And some of the issues that Trump was posting forward or putting forward, I don't know if he's going to follow through, because every politician has this thing of over promising and under delivering. That's what they do to win votes, right? To win elections. So a lot of politicians are going to do that. Now, abortion, abortion, and the evangelical, I guess the issues would be abortion, the LGBT community, and issues that are governing or that are around the idea of, hey, why are we pushing so much the agenda of trying to have um like gender identity and not say, okay, if you are a man, if you are born a man, then you are a man. If you were born a woman, then you are a woman. Those ideas, I feel like the Democrats did not address those ideas, and those are Christian ideas, or those are ideas that Christians hold value to. So so the Republican Party as a whole taps into that. Trump was able to tap into that. Whether he believes it or not, he spoke to that, which some of the evangelicals feel like that was an issue that they hold dear, and Trump was the only one talking about that, as opposed to Harris. So what do you say about that when it comes to that, and they're not going by the letter of the Bible?
Well, I say they're not reading their Bible. That's the problem. I say that they are confused.
All of them?
The people that voted for Trump based off of faith,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of them have basically been misinformed. For as the Bible has explained to us, that there are false prophets out there.
Okay.
Look, in Matthew 7:15-16, it says, watch out for false prophets. They come they come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly they are ferocious wolves. By the fruit you will recognize them. And then if you look at it and you see, well, in the next verse or the following, in 18, it says, a good tree cannot bear bad fruit, and a bad tree cannot bear good fruit. So it also tells us in First John 4:1, dear friends, do not believe every spirit, but test the spirits to see whether they are from God, because many false prophets have gone into the wild. For in Matthew 12:34, it talks, how can you who are evil say anything good? For the mouth speaks what the heart is full of. And if you're not in the Bible and studying it, you will never recognize the false prophets. You will be led astray, and you will start being influenced by people that will say anything to get you riled up, to um, make you start saying things that you don't believe in. You just will be a follower, and you just be that person that will make you, hey, I just want to feel good and I want to be part of the crowd.
So let me ask you a question. For those people who are not necessarily trying to, like you just explained, right? Would you say that if you're calling Trump a false prophet, would you say that Harris presented herself as the prophet that was not a false prophet for them to vote for her? What was she presenting that made her seem more as a prophet than a false prophet,
Well,
as
she was
opposed to
not
Trump?
presenting. So she was definitely not presenting herself as a prophet. She made it very clear she doesn't believe in Jesus um, like Christians would believe in Jesus, because she allows the basis of LGBTQ to conform into the Democratic Party, which in this case Jesus does not believe in what the LGBT believe in. It's plain and simple. It's rooted in what the Bible says in the Old Testament. God does not like the things that the LGBT communities do.
Right, but okay. So some of the issues. I want to play a video, and this is from another creator. His name is Nick Jones, and let's talk about this after the video, because there's some things that I feel like that tugs at the heart of the evangelical community. We'll deal with the Latinos in a second, but let's watch this video, and you tell me if this is something that you feel like the voters they needed to like. This is what tugged at their heart. Let's listen.
Order instructing every federal agency to cease all programs that promote the concept of sex and gender transition at any age. No serious country should be telling its children that they were born with the wrong gender, a concept that was never heard of in all of human history. Nobody's ever heard of this, what's happening today. It was all when the radical left invented it just a few years ago. The departments and agencies that have been weaponized will be completely overhauled so that faceless bureaucrats will never again be able to target and persecute conservatives, Christians, or the left's political enemies, which they're doing now at a level that nobody can believe even possible.
So people want to.
So with just that portion of it, right? This is these are some issues where you do understand like how big the evangelical community is in America, right? Like how much they, how much power they have in this country, and how much their vote matters for you to win that evangelical. And I feel like the Democratic Party has not done a good job courting the evangelical community, because some of these issues are issues that they don't even want to deal with. President Obama didn't want to deal with it, as far as he won, but President Obama won for different reasons. But this community has been, I would say, not the Democratic Party has not tapped into this community, and they have ignored them for a very long time, and they mostly align with the Republican Party. So with that issue that Trump just talked about, how can you say that, okay, they don't care, or they're not true Christians, when that's a Christian issue?
Because the devil knows the Bible. The devil can use the Bible against you to get what he wants. Or to understand it is Jesus Christ, when he was tempted, and he had to the devil used the Bible out of context to try to trick Jesus into basically saying, submit to me. And Jesus had to use the Bible back to him and say no. So using the Bible, or the things of the Bible, out of context, is something that the devil likes to use all the time. So in this case, you hear something that you kind of know and you don't understand it, then you just kind of go with the flow. That's what that's what American Christianity is all about, of what I've seen and how they failed God, because they don't know the whole story. They don't know, because they don't read the Bible. They just proclaim Jesus with their mouth and not with their heart. That's all they do.
But what about the issue? The issue is what I'm trying to get at. The issue of, you got the Democratic Party that has a lot of programs for gender identity, You got a lot of programs for when kids want to make transitions. They want to provide them aids and stuff like that. They want to give them money to be able to help them along those the line of that. How do you speak to that if that's a concern about that's a concern for the Christian or the evangelicals in the country? How do you speak to that? But you're on this line of they don't know the Bible. Like, I'm trying to see how do you relate that to politics, right? Because you're kind of strictly coming at, oh, they're not reading the Bible. But speak on how does the idea of this evangelical problem or this issue that Trump is talking about and reaching people's living rooms, right? If you're a Christian, I'm a Christian, and I'm hearing this, uh, whether I'm a Democrat or not, I'm hearing this and I'm like, yeah, those are the values that I align with, and I know the Bible. So I'm not going to choose the candidate that wants to give young people who are not even allowed to drive, that wants to give them uh, uh, aid to be able to help their transition. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes, I understand. So that question, it's a very difficult question because of the fact that I, as a Christian, look at it and it's like, it does make sense. It does coincide with what the Bible can say. I'm going to look into the Bible and I'm going to find out what it truly says. Again, what the problem is that people are going into not reading the Bible and then taking that information, the little information that they know, and then running with what he is saying. And then I myself, I will say that I reject the transition of children or boys or whatever you want to call them to a different gender, because that is not what God has intended us for us to be. But when I hear things like that, I see, okay, for what is the purpose that he's using it? The purpose is what is the purpose of how he uses those terms to figure out what we're doing in the Christian faith. If you look at things without context, you are putting yourself in a situation that you will be lied to.
All right. So let's talk about the let's look at some numbers and let me give you some information about like how Trump was able to how he did with the actual votes. So let's give some let's put some perspective on this. All right. So this is how Trump and Harris fared with faith voters in 2024. So the article says, when Donald Trump won re-election last week, exit poll shows he was propelled to victory by gains in a wide swath of Democratic groups and buffered once more by strong support from Christian voters. In fact, Trump made gains in nearly every category of self-identified Christians running against Kamala Harris compared to his run in 2020 against Joe Biden. He even expanded his support among white born again and the evangelical Christians, a group that has overwhelmingly support him in all three of his presidential campaigns. According to exit poll data from NBC, Trump expanded his margins for Christians identifying as Protestants or other Christians and Catholic of voters identifying as Protestant or other Christians. 63% went for Trump and 36% went for Harris. That's a small bump from 2020 when Trump got 60% of the Protestant or other Christians vote and Biden got 39%. Now, Trump made a bigger jump with Catholic voters against Harris, who is a Baptist. Exit polling shows Catholic voters broke for Trump by 58% to 40% for Harris. That's a major shift from 2020 when Biden, who is Catholic, won Catholic voters 52% to 47%. Now, this is telling me that by and large, Christians are going for Trump, right? Christians are voting for Trump. So now, one or two things have to be true. Either his message is resonating with the Christian base, or he's, like you say, he's deceiving them, and he's not going to be able to do the things that he's saying that he's going to do. But the question down to you, what if he does those things? What if Trump says, you know what? We're going to stop all of this. We're going to make sure that women play in women's sports, men play in men's sports. We're not going to have any gender identification stuff going on in our society. What if Trump meets all of his campaign promises to the Christians? Then would he be a false prophet? Because keep in mind now, he's not a prophet. He's a president. So there has to be a separation of church and state to a certain extent. So I guess what we need to talk about is, to what extent does Christians get involved with politics, and how far can we take that?
Well, so you understand, unfortunately, too many people look at Christianity as something that they have to get into politics and then say everything is rooted in politics within Christianity. And that's false, because nowhere in the Bible does it say anything that we have to get ourselves involved in the politics, as the separation of state and church has always been a thing. I mean, we've talked before about how Israel, when they first got a king, they rejected God. They wanted to be like the other nations, and the rejection of God. God said, "They have rejected me and not you, Samuel," because Samuel's the one who was talking to God. And so in this case, they have rejected, because there's so many people, that Christians, that say, "Oh, Donald Trump is going to make America great again and bring Christianity back into this place." Well, the false narrative is that they've basically said, "I'm going to rely on Donald Trump over Jesus," and because of that, they have been coerced into believing a narrative that is untrue. And how far the Christianity should be getting into, there shouldn't be that much involvement into it, because we as faith believers put our faith in Christ, and He, the King, the true King, is the one that overall makes the laws and rules.
So do you believe that Christians should have voted for Kamala over Trump, and why?
I do not believe that they should have voted for Kamala either. In this case, personally, in my belief as a Christian, I would have not voted for any of them, because Kamala has a narrative of supporting the LGBTQ that has rejected God, and then on the other side, you have Donald Trump, a false prophet that basically says that he's a chosen one. He's going to bring America back to its greatest moment. And to me, as a Christian, I would have never voted.
So, okay, so now, in the beginning, you said that you're working on you becoming a citizen or being a naturalized citizen, and you are Christian. You have two options. So, is your message to the voting community or the American citizen not to vote at all if you're Christian?
My message is, look at what the Bible stands for. If you do not stand for what the Bible stands for, then what are you standing for? The Bible stands of love, Jesus, God the Father, the Holy Spirit. And if you're saying, "I'm going to vote for the lesser evil," then you're saying to all Christianity that you've chosen to go for someone else other than Jesus.
So when you become naturalized, that means you would never vote.
No, that's not true. I would still vote, but I would vote on what is necessary. It may not be a voting for the presidential candidate, but it may be for areas around in my community that I would vote.
Okay, so I'm trying to understand. I'm trying to understand your stance on voting for a lesser evil, because Christians can get involved in politics, but they're getting involved with like what the campaign is promising it will do. So as a Christian, if I'm looking at both candidates and you say, okay, Trump says, you know what? I do not like people taking Christian things like marriage and all of these things that Christians have, because if you if you think about it, this is a Christian nation, even though I don't believe that this is a Christian nation because it's by far from God. But at least for generally, this nation believes in God, like God, right? One nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for us. So you got to pick somebody. If you got to pick someone, wouldn't it be better for you to pick somebody who stands in solidarity with the values that you stand for as a Christian? Because it sounds like you're saying both are not representing Christian values, so don't vote at all. But that's not an option.
So yeah, like I said, okay, so you if you look at Donald Trump, he's a snake tradesman, oil dealer, whatever you want to call him. He can sell you a pencil. He can make you think that, make you feel good. And on the other side, you have a person that represents the complete opposite, doesn't believe in Jesus, doesn't follow the values of Jesus. But then you have someone saying, I follow the value of Jesus, but doesn't represent the values of Jesus. He can tell you that he's going to do these things and try to get a vote from you. And that's the thing that a lot of people are not realizing. You are being coerced into believing these things. Again, we go back to
That's
the false
politics.
prophets.
that is literally what politics is all about.
I agree. That is what politics is. But again,
Right.
the separation of church and state is one of the biggest things that I believe in. Because when I go to church, I'm not going in there to learn about Donald Trump. I'm going in there to learn about Jesus, because I want to be able to go in there and learn about God so I can come out into the world and be the disciple that he wants me to be and tell people about God. And if you notice, a lot of the rhetoric that he talks about, he doesn't sound like God, a godly man. He doesn't. The so-called Christians that people are voting for him, they don't sound like Jesus. Someone that sounds like Jesus, you'll know him. I mean, I've already said it before. That you will know me. You will know my disciples by the way you say, the way you talk.
All right. So as far as now he's president, right? We can't get away from that. He's going to lead this country and he's going to make certain decisions. When let's say, okay, will you be happy if he was to take away gay marriage, right? If Trump was to say, you know what, based on my Christian value, even though you call him a false prophet, based on Christian values, marriage is for a man and for a woman, right? A man and a woman. If Trump was to write some type of executive or order and says, we no longer are going to recognize gay marriage as a legitimate marriage in the United States of America, right? If Trump was to do that, you as a Christian man, will you be happy?
Yes, I would be happy the fact that that's something that would happen like that. Yes, because that's something that I believe in. But to say that he will do it, to say that it will happen, how many times have his man lied to the people and then coerce people that to do to vote for him into saying that, hey, this is going to happen? You got to understand, there are a lot of leaders in that are in the Bible that have said things or done things that do not align with what God has. And then, with that being said, there's repentance in all of that. And I have not seen an ounce of repentance in Donald Trump. Just because you go to church doesn't mean you are a Christian. I've seen what you do in secret. God, the Lord, sees what's going on, and in this case, um, I don't believe in him. I don't believe that he is one of a man that keeps his word.
Okay, so I get that part. I totally understand. Let's set aside for a second that he's not a Christian. Let's agree. Let's agree together that he's not a Christian. However, not being a Christian, but putting forward things in our society, in the American society, that are aligned with the Christian values, I find that to be, even all politicians are going to lie. They're all going to make promises. Obama made promises. Biden made promises. They can't keep all the promises. They're going to make a bunch of promises, but you're hoping that they keep a certain percentage of those promises. But it seems like you're saying you're holding Trump to a higher standard than most. Because I want to understand, like, okay, if we was to just say, forget about the fact that he's not a Christian, we can both agree on that. But I would say I would be happy the fact that he does. I personally don't like him, right? Based on some of the things that he has said about Africans, based on the fact that he lies so much. I don't like his personality. I'm not a Trump guy. I'm not a MAGA person. I don't like him because, number one, he doesn't represent the things that I represent when it comes to how you deal with people, right? He's like, he has very low self-esteem. He needs other people to prop him up, to give him value. But even though he was born into money, apparently the money did not do enough for him to give him that confidence that he needs as a man. So he needs other people to prop him up. Those are the reasons why I don't like him. But now, when it comes to leading a country, when it comes to running a country, he's president now. So from the Christian standpoint, if he does most of the things that you align with, then profit or no profit, you profit. if you get what I'm saying.
No, I understand what you're saying. Okay, so of course, the Bible explains to us that we should pray for our leaders, and if he makes a decision that aligns with what I believe, then the prayers of what we've asked for to make good decisions based off of what God wants us to be in, then it seems that the prayers are reaching, because that is something that we want. We want something that represents God,
Right.
but even God uses evil men to do his work.
You mentioned American Western Christians. Why do you separate the rest of the world from American Western Christians? Tell me what do you mean about American Western Christians? Is there a differentiation between other Christians? Do they believe a little bit more? Is the American Western Christianity a little watered down? What is your take on that?
Well, okay, so American Western Christians. When we talk about American Western Christians, we talking about Baptist, Pentecostal, um, Seventh Day Adventists. There are so many forms of denominations that God has never wanted denominations. The denominations are what's separating us. That is why I'm a
Is that just a
non-denominational.
Western thing? That's not just an American thing, though. Just so you know, in Africa they have those too.
Right, but it's growing. Is what I'm saying. It's created division into a point where it grows outside, and it's when you create when you create a forefront like what they've done, you've created a separation of God. And though you may be saying things like um, God is Jesus, but vote for Trump. That's not, no. That's not what the whole perspective of what going to church is.
But you're
Like
saying don't vote.
if yeah,
You're literally
in
saying
my
don't vote.
I'm an if I were able to vote,
Hmm.
I stand as an independent because neither of them can sway um, from what their rhetoric and what they've taught. Um, they can't sway me to be a Republican or Democrat because how a lot of them they want your vote based off of maybe one policy or like I'm going. What Donald Trump likes to say a lot is I'm going to fix the economy, and everybody jumps on board to one economy, and then because of that one thing, they forget about everything else. Everything else goes out the door. Who cares if he is saying some of the most hateful things? And then I'm just going to vote because he's going to fix the economy. And that's the thing that gets me is because like when Christians hear one thing that Donald Trump says is that I'm going to make sure and take care of um, the the LGBTQ and we're not going to be having none of this. That tells me that okay, well, what else? Because again, we have to understand what they're talking about because there's these a lot. Donald Trump and the Democrats as well in the Republican Party, they like to make it sound so good and then never deliver to what the extent of what they are trying to give you, or never it never happens. I
But
mean,
I mean, I think that is again that is politics generally. That's not that can't be a Democratic thing or a Republican thing or even in independent thing. That's just how politics works. You overpromise, you underdeliver, and then you repeat
absolutely.
you rinse and repeat every election cycle. So it seems like mostly we should be talking about why are people so gullible and they're so easily fooled, right? Because I think that's where it kind of leads into based on what you're saying. Because people are easily gullible every single year, right? We talk about the same thing. The politicians are going to come make promises, and they're gonna if you once you look at what they were able to accomplish, it's always a whole lot less than what they were saying on the campaign trail. But then again, in politics, it's not just a one party rule. If you win, right? It's you win, but you also have to deal with the House and the Senate. And there are Republicans and Democrats, and they all have to decide on how the country is run.
Yes, I understand. I mean, we have a government in place to take care of a lot of the stuff that we have. I mean, that is what the Bible has said that God has implemented governments into this world to take care of what His will is. And even though you may have a man that is rooted in some of the worst things you can have, He still uses them for the protection of God's people, the protection of Christianity. And although you may hear from Him sweet things like, well, He's going to take care of the the LGBTQ curriculum and not and eliminate that type of system. That does not mean that he is the right person to vote for based off of Christianity. In this case, for me, again, I would have never voted for any of them.
All right. Now let's turn our attention with these last few minutes that we have for the show. You are you are a man of Latino heritage, and that's who you are. How is your community dealing with the Trump presidency? How the Trump election? How's your community dealing with it?
Well, so you understand, I come from Central America, and I can tell you that I can. People talk to me and say, "I'm nervous. I'm scared. I don't want to be removed from this country. I've worked so hard to be in this country." And when you hear rhetoric that they're gonna do a mass deportation, they put fear into. They start making decisions that they really didn't need to, and unfortunately, that is what's happening, because of someone that is claiming to do a mass deportation. And in the community, in Latinos, some people don't even care because they've put themselves in a situation, for voting them. I hear a lot of people, I guess that's what you get for voting for him. Now you've got fear in your heart that you're going to be deported. And some of them are saying, I don't care if my own people get deported, as long as, I was able to vote for him.
So what issues are you guys like in your community, in the Latin community? What other issues are you, because immigration is something that's big, right? Um, when you got the border countries, but then it's not the entire Latino community that's at a border country. But yet when it comes to the Latin vote, immigration is like one of the biggest things. What other issues do you guys deal with in your community that may be affected with the Trump election?
Well, I would say, I don't know if this answers the question, but within our community, how it's affecting us is we're fighting each other. We're divided in our community. Um, you know, our
How so?
culture is our culture is starting to be lost. I mean, we come from a deep culture of helping people, helping ourselves out, helping our family, where we uplift ourselves. Instead, we're now being segregated to say things like, um, if you just pick up your bootstraps and wrap them up and get them ready to go, get up, get to work, and instead of helping each other, this is what God told us to do. When Jesus was at the Last Supper, and he was cleaning one of his disciples, or when Jesus Christ cleaned one of the disciples. It's all about that. I mean, when we have the carne asada and we have everybody here and we're enjoying with our community, now people are not really doing that because of the fact that we're starting to separate ourselves. Our culture is starting to die with the new way of thinking of how Latinos are trying to be.
So when you say that, are you saying that Latinos are more so aligned with the white culture than they are with their own culture? Like explain that? What do you mean?
Um, so yeah, I think what's happening is that I guess you would call it being more Americanized. The culture is being lost to being more of an American culture where you fight for yourself, you defend for yourself, and you'll make your own money the way that your America has made its money. And where you come from a culture of, like in my case, I came from Central America, where we help each other, we help, bring ourselves up, and that culture is starting to die in the Mexican and other cultures that are around the Latinos.
Okay, so you're saying that this Trump election or this Trump presidency, the way that Trump, I guess, the way that he speaks and the way that he represents himself or he presents himself, that's affecting your community directly, and it has to do with the separation of, well, just understanding that, okay, like, do for self, not for community. Is that so? Y'all are feeling that in with this Trump election? Y'all are feeling like there's a separation of, oh, let me do for myself. Let me isolate myself in this little corner, get what I can get, right, and then get my money, and y'all can deal with it. Like the rest of y'all can deal with whatever you want to deal with. I'm not about that community stuff. Is that what you're feeling, or no?
Yes, that's basically, in a nutshell. Yes, I mean, that's what is starting to
You sure?
happen
You
in
sure
our
that's not
community.
hip hop? You sure that the Latinos are not being influenced by hip hop? Because that's what it seems like.
No, no, but see,
um,
you got to understand, in the Republican Party and Donald Trump, they're always saying, to, help yourself and get yourself up, quit being lazy, get up and do stuff for yourself. Well, our community has always been a togetherness. Always. Someone's having a party, I'll bring the food here, I'll do this, when the party's over, we clean up. We don't just get up and leave, you know. So that type of stuff is starting to be affected by our culture starting to be more Americanized, where America is influencing our culture more.
So, what message do you have for your community and for those who chose to vote for Trump? What message do you want to send to those people? What do you want to say to those people?
Okay. Well, okay. So for the Christian community,
Let's do the
what I
Latin first. Let's do the Latin first. Your
okay
your your Latino community.
for my Latino community, I want to say, don't let your roots die in over someone that's trying to tell you how to live. When you've rooted yourself in love and community and togetherness, you've put yourself in a situation where you let someone else influence you when that's not the case. You haven't. When we came over here to this country through immigration, we come here as together to fight for our families and do what is needed to be better ourselves. And by doing stuff like um, being separated from our communities, you have now been influenced by America's culture, which is at in this case, it's starting to destroy our community, and that's what's you need to realize that if you don't, our community will start being destroyed to the American culture, and uh, and we will be influenced where the Latino and maybe other communities will be affected to a point where, you know what, American culture is the new way, and our older culture will will die out.
So, what do you say in response to somebody who's saying, "Well, you're in America, so we love our culture, we love America, and if you are a Latino in America, you know, what's wrong with you adapting an American way of life or American culture because you're earning your money here, you're you're benefiting from our labor, you're benefiting from how we run our country. So if you get part of our culture, then what is wrong with that? What would you say to those people?
It's okay to be in America and be part of the culture. It's what I'm saying is, do not let your culture die. If you come from, I mean, and it could be any culture. You can come from, um, India, or you can come from another country that has a culture that, you know, that has a beautiful culture that you've lived in, that has unity, that has a form of togetherness. And then you come here and you know, you can share the culture of America, but don't let your vision of your culture die. That is something that as a Latino, I've seen people in my own family um, start separating themselves from the love and culture that we came from because they are being influenced in American culture that has all of a sudden rooted into their hearts and say that this is the only way. And I say, if that is the way for you, then you have been truly influenced, and your culture is dead.
Okay, so your overarching message is it's okay to be an American, it's okay to adapt American culture, but while you're doing that, do not allow yours to die because then you're pretty much allowing somebody else's culture to influence and kill your culture. Um, what do
Yes.
you what is your message to your Christian community? And And let me ask you this before you answer that question. Are Latinos mostly Catholic, or do they like what? Does your community are they mostly like evangelicals? And how does that affect you as a whole when you think about how they're changing culture, and how they even how they even vote? Do they align with the evangelical thoughts, or is there something different that the way that they think? Because that can also affect the way that they vote.
So, okay, I agree with you that, the way they think and what religion they come from can also affect the vote. But it depends where you come from. I mean, an example would be in the Mexican community.
So Latinos are not a monolith. You guys are just like black people, where we are not a monolith. We have a lot of different cultures, and so you're saying that you're not a monolith. There's a lot of different thinking in the Latino community.
Absolutely. I mean, um, myself as a free thinker, I need to be able to take the information and the basis of what I'm receiving to make a judgment. In this case, a lot of people, if you go into, okay, in the Mexican community, there is a lot of Catholics. So they grow up Catholics, and they have to, they're, they're, they were brought up as Catholics, and that's all they understand. And when they come into America, where it's more based on Christianity, that doesn't have to do with Catholics as much, because there's more Christian um, temples, I guess you would call it, um, that have to do with like Baptist and Pentecostal.
Yeah,
You know,
they call it churches, not temples, because I think mostly Catholics would call it temple. Your Baptists and your evangelicals and your yeah, they wouldn't call it a temple.
thank you. Yeah, so they're rooted in a different way of thinking. But again, if you want to be a true Christian, you have to be inside the Word. So, I mean, honestly, to me, if a closure for me, for all the Christian believers, is something that I've learned through my years, and in all my Bible studies that I've done, is the closer you get to God, the more you realize the people that you thought had a relationship with God are actually very far from Him. That the more you spend time in His Word, you start to realize people that speak for Him don't really sound like Him. Um, when Peter, the disciple, denied God, um, and there was people around him and said, surely, in Matthew 26:73, it says, surely you are one of them. Your accent gives you away. See, at the time, he's speaking like God. He's denying God, but he still speaks like Jesus. And he had to, it says in the Bible, Matthew 26:74, it says, then he began to call down curses, and he swore to them, I don't know him. See, he had to sound like the world in order to get rid of them, because he sounded too much like the followers of Christ. So to that I say, to the Christians, sound like the followers of Christ. And how do you sound like the followers of Christ? Open up the Word, read it, learn from it, and then you will understand if you're being deceived, because the people that you voted for, regardless Democrat or Republican, as a spiritual person, those are not the right people to vote for. As a civic person, my duty to, if I could vote and it was my duty to vote, I would have chosen someone that has to deal with that is not, that could bring people together, that would bring people together instead of segregate people. Because what some of those people do is just separate. They're dividing people.
All right. So finally, you're basically you're saying, if you must vote, then at least vote for somebody who is not going to, you know, who's not separating people. So Kamala was the candidate that had more sound values, and she was not the type of person that would curse you out, or she's not a criminal. So she had more civic values, or to you, she had more value that mostly aligned with somebody who's more decent. But hey,
For peace, yes. For peace and unity, definitely Harris, because of the fact that she was not divisive. She was trying to bring people together. And that's what I saw with a lot of the Democratic Party. And as far as the Republican Party, it was always about trying to separate people from, telling people, you know, um, making jokes, even if it was jokes about, um, the I believe was it Cuba that they were making jokes about?
oh
Um,
no, that was
well, Puerto
Puerto
Rico.
Rico.
I'm sorry,
Yeah.
Puerto Rico, Puerto Rico.
Being an island of garbage, or island
Yeah,
floating garbage, something like that. But okay, so regardless of all of that, your stance is two evils does not equal one good, and you're not going to vote for either one. That's understandable. Any final thoughts you have any final thoughts you have, either for your Latin community or for your Christian community, before we go?
to all my communities, I say love each other as Jesus loved you, because that's that's the basis of everything. Don't hate, love each other, uplift each other. Don't try to force someone to do something by themselves if you can help them, because it's all we have for each other. God Jesus Christ will return one day, and I, 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 I only pray that you guys have, accepted him as your Lord and Savior, because I don't want you guys to be left out, because of the fact that it's he's the King of all kings, and he's a gracious God, and I can only wish that you guys would love each other, because if we loved each other, we wouldn't be in this situation that we are. Instead, we're ripped apart with hatred and division.
So I agree that we are the heirs to the kingdom of Christ, and we need to represent Christ while we are here on this earth, in our daily lives, at work, in our politics, and while we don't share the same sentiment as far as don't vote for either evil, because some people do say, you got to choose the best of both evils, the two evils, choose the best one. However people vote, Trump is the president, and he has a mandate to his Christians and to whoever is, to his MAGA people, the MAGA Christians and those who are voting for him. And let's hope that the country will, I don't even know what the word is, but I just hope that the country will be in a better place, because for 2 years, this is his second term now. I don't know if the first term made America great again, because we were never told what was bad about it to be able to measure when if we know whether it was great again, right? So now the second term, I don't know if there's a definition of bad. Maybe it's the fact that you got a bunch of immigrants coming in eating cats and dogs, and people are you know, the violence that's going on with the immigration. It seemed like the immigration, the border wars, and everything was the thing that is making America bad. And if we stop those things, then we make America great again. But I don't know that that's the only thing.
That's a I believe that's a misunderstanding, and because you got to understand, America was built on the foundation of immigrants. America
Exactly.
America does not have a tribe or anything that started out in this country other than the natives. The natives are the ones that were first here or arrived here first, and we're all immigrants, all of us.
Right. But for some reason, I feel like the Republican Party and Trump, the way that they talk, it's like immigration is like the number one issue. And that's what I keep hearing, like the immigration, borders, the building the wall. I mean the wall. And a lot of people align who are nationalists, they align with him because they want to just make sure that America stays pure. America stays America the way whatever the American ideals are, that it stays that way. And that's what they're fighting for. Even though I know that a lot of those people are fighting for the wrong thing, and I'd rather not get into all of that. But again, we're gonna make America great again. But yeah, man, I want to thank you for coming on and sharing your thoughts with me and sharing some of your community and your values, your personal values with me. And your sentiment of trying to make sure that people understand who Christ is and how and what part he plays in our society and how we deal with that is not going to go unheard. It was clear in this chat, in this community, this conversation that you and I had, and I do pray with you that more and more people will understand that you put Christ first and things will get better. So
I
you're
thank
fine.
you for allowing me to be here.
You
I
got the final word. Go ahead.
thank you for allowing me to be here. I pray that people that are listening and watching, that they um, understand that if if you if you had Christ in your heart and you loved Him, you would see the picture so much different than this whole division of Democrat Republican. Because when you're in the center of things and you have Christ, your vision is so much clearer than it is radical. And I pray that people open up their Bibles, if they are Christians, to actually open their Bibles, read the Word, and they actually understand and get to know God. And when you get to know God, you'll start talking like Him.
Hmm. Amen to that. All right. So Wilfred C, thank you, so Wilfredo C. I appreciate the conversation, and we got to do this again one day. Thank you so much,
Thanks
man.
for having me, Harry.
You're welcome, and have a great evening, and thank you for coming on the Billionaires Mindset. Take care.
Thank you, Harry. You take care. Bye bye.
Bye bye. All right, guys. So there it is. Politics is not an easy thing to understand. Um, whether the different groups and the different communities within politics, when you're dealing with the Latinos or the Black vote or the Asian vote, America is a melting pot. America has different groups. The founding fathers of America made sure that America had Christian values, and America was built on Christian values. Now, obviously, when you have years removed from the founding fathers, there are going to be people that come along that may not hold the same values. People that may not have the same sentiment, that they don't have the same things, the same value set, being like decent, treating your neighbor as you would like to be treated. Those things kind of like start to dwindle down. But that's the thing about American politics that I've come to realize. It ain't perfect, but it's not like other countries. America is not this place where if you say something, you can get stoned depending on where you're from. Because I'm from a place in West Africa where politics can be a little bit interesting, where the freedom of speech may not be so free. So when we look at American politics, the different groups that are in within American politics, we have to ask ourselves, where are we in that? I'm a black man, I'm an African man, and I'm a Christian man. So when I'm listening to Democratic values and I'm listening to Republican values, I try to choose something that kind of like fits somewhere with the understanding, right? Kind of fits somewhere where I can kind of settle with, but with the understanding that it's not going to be 100%. There is going to be a certain number that does not agree with me. But I have to ask myself, will we ever get 100%? I don't think so. But I think I have to settle for a small percentage. And some of those percentage, even though I don't like Trump, it seems like he's speaking to my Christian side. The side that he doesn't speak to is my man side, my other Christian side that says values. Just like my guest, Wilfredo, said. The values that I adhere to every day. Treat your neighbor like you want to be treated, like you would like to be treated. When I hear somebody say, when somebody does something to you, especially the office of the presidency and how somebody is supposed to be presidential, it's not tit for tat. It's not you do something to me, I say something back to you. It's not that. Usually when you choose a president, you're choosing somebody with high esteem, somebody who has high grades. It's not just somebody we choose that just kind of like, is popular. Again, that's why America is so great. So if America is this great country that we all adhere to, that we all want to be in, then what was wrong with it? What happened to it that we had to make it great again? I'm going to leave you with that. Talk to me in the chat. Talk to me in the comments. And I'll see you next time on The Billionaire's Mindset. Cheers, guys.